Om. ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रय विनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नमः। श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। 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 ॐ वाङ्मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविरावीर्म एधि वेदस्य म आणिस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनाधीतेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि हृदं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्माम् अवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा जिह्वे पिबस्वामृतमेतदेव गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति। हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति। हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति। हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति। नारायण नारायण नारायण। Supreme Consciousness Bhagavan Krishna in the chapter 3 is going to give elaborate teaching about Karma Yoga, the topic which he has already introduced in the chapter 2. So Bhagavan is going to give a detail about how to do Karma Yoga in this chapter, but this chapter starts with question of Arjun first, who heard the entire chapter 2 teachings, and post that chapter it Arjun has some question, and from that question itself Bhagwan start this particular chapter 3 starts, and then and answering the question of Arjun only, Bhagwan elaborates the topic of Karma Yoga, which he has started or introduced in the, or what you call that, he spoke about that topic in brief in the second chapter. You see, the best part about Sanatan Dharma is Sanatan Dharma, all the teachings, whether you see Upanishads also, whether you see, or any scripture of Sanatan Dharma, it's in the form of a dialogue between a guru and shishya, a guru and a disciple, a guru and his student. Why it is like that? Because Sanatan Dharma pushes this fact that we will give you the teaching, but you should come up with your questions, or basis that question or answering those questions, when guru will elaborate the topic. And that same technique is there in Srimad Bhagavad Gita also. Even though here the guru, the teacher is Jagat Guru, is the guru of all gurus, so to say, or the guru of the entire world, and supreme consciousness Bhagwan himself is sitting as a guru. But you see the beauty of the technique here. Here also Bhagwan gave the topic and waited for Arjun to come up with question to answer and elaborate on the topic. So you will see that at every question of Arjun, Bhagwan and picks up in more detail in terms of elaborating upon. That's why I said in the last session, in the introduction session of chapter 3, I told you that the whole of Bhagavad Gita is from starting from 3rd up to chapter 17 is nothing but a commentary on Bhagavad Gita's chapter 2 teachings only. So it's an elaboration of all the topics which have been covered in chapter 2. That's why I said chapter 2 has covered almost every topic. Now there will be those topics will be elaborated, and then ancillary things which are related to those topics also Bhagwan will pick up in the further chapters. So in the last session, in the introduction session, we saw one core thing which I'm just touching, and I will continue from where we left in the last session, that Sat, Chit and Anand being our true nature, our true inherent property, there are three things which are at the foundation or core of all the entire thought process and personality of each of the beings here. Con, uh, as part of Sat, the thing is, we all have this core thought to protect our existence. That's what I said in the last session. And as part of our true nature as Chit, consciousness, we all want to be more knowledgeable than before. We want to acquire knowledge, and we don't want to look without any knowledge in front of anyone. We don't want to look fool in front of anyone. We don't want anyone to see us as not knowledgeable at all, or uneducated, so to say. So that's coming from the second true nature of a second core property of us as Chit, which is the property of the true self or supreme consciousness. The third thing was Anand, the bliss, the nature of bliss. All the beings in this creation are looking or chasing for happiness. All of us wants permanent happiness, but the difference is most of us, or majority of us, or most portion of the population does not know where to look for or how to find the eternal happiness. But yes, since bliss is our true nature, we are all looking for happiness. Where I left the last session, and I had culminated the session in the last one, where I reached a point, I was talking about Yoga Buddhi and Sankhya Buddhi. And I said, Yoga Buddhi is like mother who cleanses us from all the wrong tendencies and wrong things we have acquired while leading our different lives where we are coming from. It cleanses us from that and makes us prepared for, or makes us qualified to become a student of Sankhya Buddhi. And Sankhya Buddhi is like father. Once we are cleaned up from all the wrong tendencies and the wrong things and wrong vasanas we have acquired in the previous life using Karma Buddhi, using Karma Buddhi or Yoga Buddhi, then at that time Sankhya Buddhi accepts us as a student and starts the teaching from there. And Sankhya Buddhi is the one which liberates. Remember one thing, without knowledge, liberation is not possible. You know, uh, that's why it is said in our Upanishads also, nahi jnanena sadisham pavitram iha amuchyate. Without, apart from knowledge, There is nothing more purer than that. So knowledge alone is going to make us reach realization. Rest of the all things, especially yoga buddhi, is a stepping stone to prepare us or make us qualified to reach the Sankhya Buddhi. Now, elaborating from where we left last, and this till this point I have covered in the last session, and moving on from there. In reality, if you see, bhakti or devotion itself is called as yoga buddhi. Yoga buddhi is nothing but bhakti only, because in yoga buddhi also, in bhakti also, what is the common factor there? That we keep the interest of God in front of us, and keeping the interest of God, that what God wants us to do, what God will love us to do, we keeping that interest, we will do action. And that's exactly what is there in bhakti also, what is there in karma yoga also. So you will remember that when I was talking about the topic, when Bhagwan introduced Yoga Buddhi and Sankhya Buddhi in the second chapter, at that portion also I said, apart from Jnana Yoga or Sankhya Yoga or Jnana Buddhi, or the knowledge of the self, apart from that, all the other things which Bhagavad Gita is going to cover as a topic, which is what? Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, all those are classified under Karma Yoga only. They are all classified under Yoga Buddhi only. They are all classified as the stepping stone to make us qualified to receive something called Sankhya Buddhi, receive the knowledge about the self. It is only going to give us enough qualification so that we are prepared to receive the knowledge about the self. So you will see Yoga Buddhi and Bhakti. Yoga Buddhi is nothing but Bhakti only, and Bhakti is Yoga, Karma Yoga only. You can use that word interchangeably. Then why did Bhagwan give two topics? Because Karma Yoga, the karma is important there. In Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti is the karma. So that's the difference you need to understand. There, the devotional action takes primary stance, becomes primary there. All other actions become secondary, including our day-to-day affairs and other things also. They all become secondary. In Karma Yoga, Bhakti is there. Bhakti is there as at the pedestal, because without Bhakti, Karma Yoga cannot be done. But there, the importance is for karma, right? So that's the difference why Bhagwan has deciphered that into two different topics, Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga. Bhakti Yoga, in Karma Yoga, devotion to God is important. Without devotion, you cannot offer your action to God. But in Bhakti Yoga, devotion becomes primary. So Karma Yoga, you start with Bhakti, you start getting devoted. It's the initial portion of devotion. That's why you will start devoting your action to God. The one thing you need to remember, or keep at the back of your mind, is that without being devoted to someone, how can you offer your action to them? You can offer your action only to those who you love, no? Without love, love is primary. Without love and dedication for someone, how can you offer your action to that person? I'll just step back and explain this in a different way also. There are many children who are so much devoted to their parents that whatever they do, they offer it unto their parents, and they keep parents and liking as the primary thing. There are many such kids even today also, for whom their action is devoted to parents. But one way we can see is that they're devoted to parents, that's why it is going like that. But that is only one side of the whole thing. You need to see what are the factors, how did they get devoted. So first is, at the core of that devotion is love for their parents. And because why is there love for the parents? What is the cause of love for their parents? Because their parents have also invested their love, their time, their effort in that kid. That's the most important factor. They have invested their earning, their money, their time, their effort. Those parents must have done something special for these kids to love them, no? We have to see that aspect also. You know, it nothing is there without a cause. we may only see one side of the effect and see that, I don't even know why the effect is coming, but there has to be a cause behind it also. Of course, there is prarabdha of parents and kids also there. That is also one of the factors. But at the core of it, we need to understand there has to be some reason why these kids are devoted to the parents. And the same thing happens with God also. When a man starts to rise in devotion, starts to look up to God. Right now, what is happening is, we know there is one God, we know He's all powerful, and that's it. We don't have any love and devotion for God at the moment. We, even if we go to temple and all, God is one of the many things, many objects available for us. And since He's one of the many objects, and maybe, in the list of priority, He may be in the, you know like, it's like, list of countries on the progress, how powerful the countries are. It's like, it will be, the devotion must be lying somewhere down at the rock bottom of this list only. There it is, just one of the zillion things we have. And then we can't expect that bhakti is going to give too much benefit to us. Bhakti will give benefit to you, provided it is on the really, on one of the top few things in your list. It should be one of the primary things in your list. If it is, then definitely bhakti will pay you, and it will pay you very differently. Trust me, the result which bhakti pays you, you cannot even imagine what it can do. So here, the most important thing is yoga buddhi or karma yoga. The knowledge of karma yoga is actually, there the primary thing is action. And two more things which are equal to primary, or they are also very important in karma yoga, is surrender, samarpan, and bhakti, devotion. And in this you will see, in real form of devotion, you will see devotee has got a very sweet and a very beautiful relationship with God. And that is what you need to see in bhakti. Actually, in karma yoga also, when doing karma yoga, if bhakti has ripened in a person, then the karma yoga also will reach at the pinnacle for such a person. And such a person, before doing an action, and he will tell God what he wants, what are his desires, he shares with God. And because there is an established relationship with God, or the sharing also is very frank and honest, doesn't hide anything from God. Anyway, let me tell you one thing very honestly: whatever is in us, nothing is hidden from God any which way, whether we share it also or not. But still, there is a beauty, even though God may see and know everything, but still there is a beauty when we share thing with God. See, that is what the inherent beauty of bhakti or devotion. We should taste ourselves to know. It's very beautiful. There are many devotees, is I have seen, their devotion is, pahar or excellence. Actually, it's really on top of the world. I've seen many such people, you know and when this devotee, even though his devotee shares everything with God, sometimes, he feels, sometimes whatever desires he have is fulfilled, sometimes desires are not fulfilled. When desires are fulfilled, this devotee feels that, see the beauty of God, see the compassion of God. Even though my desire were very worldly and very low level, still God decided to fulfill them. And sometimes when the desires are not fulfilled, he consider this as as God, what God feels as right. This is what God feels, that fulfilling this desire may not be good for me. That's why God decided not to give me this. I feel that it is good only. Bhagwan sees what is good for a devotee. Now, one of the beautiful thing I'll explain you there is, in one of the episodes I brought up Naradji's story. You know, when we hear that Naradji story, don't consider Naradji is wrong at all. When Naradji cursed Bhagwan and all those times, but there is one hidden thing you need to see there. See the beauty of Bhagwan. Even though Naradji went and shared whatever he desired, that he wanted to marry this girl and all those things with God, and Bhagwan and did not like it at all that Naradji used to sing my glory, suddenly singing the glory of that girl. How deluded he has become. So what Bhagwan did is, when Naraji was leaving, Bhagwan said, Naraji also by inadvertence, because he's Bhakt only, he said, Bhagwan, you do whatever is good for me. And Bhagwan also repeated that statement to Naraji. Naraji, remember, huh? I will do what is good for you. Okay? He said, Bhagwan, I know you will do what is good for me, you do that. Because Naraji thought Bhagwan is also with him in that desire of marrying that girl and all. So he thought he will definitely fulfill it. And there is nothing impossible for Bhagwan to fulfill anyway. So when Naraji went there, and that whole episode I've already narrated in one of the episodes of the podcast, uh, and Bhagwan did not let Naraji fall. So I told you everything happened, but Buddhi Nashat Pranashyati did not happen, because that's the thing which happens at the time of bhakti. You know, because of our own prarabdha, our own vasanas, our own karma phala, we may end up, swaying from the path. But if the devotion is strong, Bhagwan will not let us get destroyed at all. That's why karma yoga is nothing but bhakti yoga, only in a slightly different parameter, in a slightly different form. Only thing is, there in karma yoga, so to say, a karma becomes primary. In bhakti yoga, bhakti becomes primary. But remember one thing, they both can be used interchangeably also. Karma yoga is also bhakti yoga is also karma yoga, because they both are karmas only. I told you bhakti is also karma only. It's because this is the topic of karma going on that is why we need to understand here in karma yoga, karma is the primary part, and that is the most important facet at which is bringing us to karma. Because remember, the person is what, as I explained you in the last session, pravritti margi. Remember, Karma Yoga is for Pravritti Margi, the one who is in the path of action. Since he is in the path of action, of course, action has to be primary. What action will depend whether it is Karma Yoga or it is Bhakti Yoga. When the action is Bhakti primary, then it becomes Bhakti Yoga. When it is action primary with God in mind, or God as the, idol, God as the ideal of devotion, then that becomes karma yoga. But remember, both has got yoga, and yoga means yunjati iti yoga, that which enjoins you to the higher nature. I have explained that yoga earlier also. Not yoga, yoga, karma yoga, bhakti yoga. So both there, the yoga means that which enjoins us to the higher nature of us. Higher nature of us is what? The God or Bhagwan or the supreme consciousness, that is the higher nature. So whatever enjoins us to the higher nature, it is called yoga. That action which enjoins us to the higher nature of us, which is the supreme self or supreme consciousness or our true self or Atman or Paramatman, that becomes Karma Yoga. That bhakti which enjoins us to the higher, which is Bhagwan, supreme consciousness, and what I just mentioned, that becomes Bhakti Yoga. Both of them are yoga. Buddhi Yoga, Buddhi Yoga means that which enjoins us to the true nature of us as supreme consciousness, the highest nature of us. But there also it is raising us to the higher nature of us. So that's what it is meant by yoga. Because it is the topic of karma going on, that's why karma becomes primary. And if our sight is on the kriya or the action, and it is karma yoga. If our sight is on the, if we are looking in as at our emotion, if it's from the level of our emotion bhav, then it becomes bhakti yoga. So one is at the level of action, kriya, one is at the level of bhava, emotion. So at the level of kriya, it's karma yoga. At the level of bhav, it's bhakti yoga. In Upadesh Sar, or for karma yoga itself, Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi says the first word, Ishwararpitam Nechaya Kritam. The action is done as devoted to God, na ichaya, not for my fulfillment of my own desire. It is done as a devotion or offering to God. All actions are done like that. Those people, those jivas who are are pravritti pradhan, or who in whom the the thing which is primary in them is action, not renunciation. So there are two kinds of jivas now. In one portion of jivas, or one part of jivas, or one kind of jivas, action is primary. In another kind of jiva, renunciation is primary. So the one whose action, in whom action is primary, becomes pravritti pradhan. In one whom the renunciation is primary, becomes nivritti pradhan. Those jivas in whom action is primary, or they are pravritti pradhan, the culture in them is like more primary in terms of action being primary in them. That is the culture they have. Such jivas, in them, rajas, tamas, means the gunas of rajas and tamas, kartritva, bhoktritva, means doership and enjoyership. If they are all residing in their intellect as more powerful, and along with that, in their intellect, another thing will be sitting there is duragra. Duragra means sometimes we have desires which are not right. That becomes duragra. One is agra, desire. Every desire is not right. I'm just giving you small example, gross example. If somebody starts having a desire to own things or objects which are owned by other and make them theirs. I'm just giving you a very common example to say, trying to snatch other countries and make them theirs, which is at the geopolitical level I'm talking about. Just expanding their boundaries. Everyone and should accept my rule and should become part of my country. That is a duragra. In this today's world, irrespective of how powerful a country you may be, that cannot be fulfilled, because there are many other forces which are at play, which will definitely make every nail bit effort to not let that happen. And sometimes that kind of oh, wrong desire of capturing someone else's things may become one of the big reason for our own destruction. I'm just telling you very honestly this thing. You can see this at the level, personal level also. You can see this at geopolitical level also. You can see this at any level, so to say. So in them, in their intellect or in their mind is sitting this thing called, or wrong kind of desires are sitting there. In them, both love and hatred, and is sitting as primary, negative tendencies sitting in their intellect. And their habit is one more thing I'm bringing out there. Some people have this very much primary. Some people have this habit of looking at faults of others, that we call it dosha darshan. And pravritti pradhan people, those people who are I would say that in whom the action is primary, because that is the kind of culture they have. Those kind of people, some of them have this also as one of the thing which is very heavy in their intellect, weighing very heavy in their intellect. It's called dosha, the habit of dosha darshan, habit of looking at faults of others. The moment something goes wrong, before even that is known to anyone, they will jump across and say that is his fault, even if everything is their fault also. And I'm telling you honestly, spirituality teaches us to look at fault of us only. Others faults we cannot improve, we have nothing to do with them. We should see them and ensure that those faults we don't end up doing, rather than raising and fighting with them. These kind of wrong tendencies or dirt, kalushya, is sitting in their inner equipment. And what happens with these kind of things in one's own personality and one's own mind and intellect, uh, it not only troubles that person himself, but that habit of that person troubles others around him also. So that person troubles himself also, and troubles the people around that person also. And so that's why such things, we must have a solution to correct such things. And because of that only, for the entire mankind, for the entire human race, two kinds of paths are spoken about. Look at yourself, what kind of culture is primary in you. You should take up that particular path, but take up the path correctly the way the scriptures have explained. Such a big human race is there, such a big population is present in on this particular earth. So we need to understand, for such a big population, and broadly there are two paths which have been expounded, which have been explained. Between those paths there could be sub paths also, but broadly they are classified into two paths. We need to understand, and these two paths can then further be divided into sub paths. Because the mankind, the human race is so huge, then the next question may come, how can this entire mankind fit into two paths? That is why I'm answering you here only. Within these two paths there could be sub paths also, because the human mankind is so vast, it is so huge, so to say. So it is quite possible that everyone may not be able to follow broadly everything from one side. So that is the reason why there could be some small sub paths within them. And Ved Bhagwan, our Bhagwan Ved, our scriptures, was the way they have put up pravritti and nivritti as the two broad paths, the path of action and path of renunciation as two paths. The same way Bhagavad Gita has also taken up the same paths, the same way Bhagavad Gita have given teachings according to both the paths. Bhagavad Gita also have two paths, and that is one of the reason why I explained to you when I started this session today. Then people may ask, then why is Bhakti Yoga and other things? Bhakti Yoga is all is classified in Karma Yoga only. The Ashtanga Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Karma Yoga, they are all under Karma Yoga only. And then Jnana alone goes into Sankhya Yoga or Jnana Yoga, so to say. That becomes a different path, and that is the same way Bhagavad Gita has also taken the same path the way Ved Bhagwan has explained from in terms of pravritti and nivritti. And that is exactly what Bhagwan Krishna, Supreme Consciousness Bhagwan Krishna, also said in the verse number 39 of chapter 2. Esha tebihita sankhye buddhi yoge tu imam shrunu. Bhagwan also in this is verse number 39, and from his own mouth Bhagwan said, in his own words Bhagwan said, the whole knowledge is divided into two sections. Bhagwan himself said, and he said that buddhi and yoga, sankhya and sankhya buddhi and yoga buddhi. He said in two terms there. There are two kinds of knowledge we can speak about: sankhya buddhi, the knowledge of the supreme consciousness or the self, which is called the path of knowledge or path of renunciation. And path of knowledge is actually followed by the path of renunciation people, because that becomes their primary thing, and they only invest their life completely on that path. And then there is yoga buddhi means karma yoga buddhi. So Bhagwan also said there are two paths, and that's exactly what Bhagwan is also going to expound on, the way he has explained in the verse number 39 of chapter 2. When Bhagwan was giving in the teaching of Sankhya, the advice of Sankhya Buddhi, at that time more than once Bhagwan has instructed Arjun, or Bhagwan advised Arjun, Tasmat Yudhyasva Bharata. In the verse number 18 of the second chapter also Bhagwan said that Tasmat Yudhyasva Bharata. It is now we'll have to step back and think over this also, from where Arjun's question is also coming up in this chapter to start with. One may think Bhagwan is talking about the supreme consciousness, the self. Here the topic which is going on is about the self, and the self is the nature of self is what? It is akarta, is non-doer, abhokta, non-enjoyer, nirvikar, has got no kind of thought modification, etc., 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 etc. And in between that topic Bhagwan is instructing Arjun, yudhyasva. Now Arjun, I told you Arjun is a very, very attentive listener, and that is one of the brilliant qualities of Arjun I will bring up. Of course, Arjun is one of the most valorous person. He is the best available Yodha of his time. is the best available, well, what you call that, fighter of his times, the best available resource of his time, but his attention is so good. In the middle of the war also, he heard the entire topic very carefully. So Arjun is listening to this entire teaching very carefully. So Arjun may think, from 31 to 37th verse, Bhagwan laid so much emphasis on Swadharma, one's own duty. Bhagwan emphasized on one's own duty, and Bhagwan spoke about that elaborately. And in the verse number 31, Bhagwan said, Swadharmam api chaveksha na vikampitum arhasi. And very strongly, Bhagwan propagated to Arjun, or advised to Arjun, that Arjun, you must do your duty. He advised Arjun that you must follow your duty diligently. Bhagwan gave direct advice to Arjun, or direct instruction to Arjun, that Arjun, you must do your duty, own duty. If not, if you do not do your duty, it is going to give you lot of ill fame, and your name is well deserved, Arjun. You should remember that. That's why any small thing is going to spoil that name which you have built up with so much of effort throughout your life. And if you do your own duty, Arjun, and if while doing your duty, if you end up winning this war, then of course you are going to enjoy whatever you are going to win, the kind of territory, rajya, and then bhoga, all those kind of happiness is going to come to you. But if you end up losing your life, Arjun, then also you don't need to worry. Even if you end up losing your life in this war, because you were doing your duty, you're anyway going to get at more than what you're going to get after winning here. You're going to go to heaven, you're going to gain swarga. That's what is going to happen for you. But one thing which we need to emphasize here is, only forcing Arjun to do his own duty, that cannot be the only objective of Bhagwan here. If that would have been the case, Bhagwan would not have even touched the topic of Sankhya Buddhi. Bhagwan would not have touched the topic of self. So, only pushing Arjun to action, or only instructing Arjun to do action, and would not be the only objective of Bhagwan from this teaching. Bhagwan and wants to say, hey, Bhagwan is telling Arjun very clearly and advising Arjun, equipping yourself with the knowledge of Karma Yoga, becoming equipped with the knowledge of Karma Yoga, Arjun, you end up doing Swadharma. In the 48th verse, Bhagwan has emphasized this point there in the second chapter, Yogastha Kuru Karmani. Placing yourself firmly in the Karma Yoga, knowledge of Karma Yoga, Arjun, do your duty. This is how Bhagwan gave the teaching of Karma Yoga to Arjun. The direct advice of Bhagwan to Arjun is, Arjun, do your duty. But how you should do your duty? Placing yourself firmly in the yoga, in the knowledge of Karma Yoga. And Arjun is a very, very careful listener. Arjun has listened to the teaching of Sankhya Yoga also very carefully. And Arjun has listened to the teaching of Sankhya Buddhi, or the knowledge of the self also very, very carefully. Arjun has listened to the whole thing. Now, whenever Bhagwan addresses Arjun, Bhagwan says, Arjun must be thinking, whenever Bhagwan is addressing Arjun, Bhagwan is asking me to do, yuddha, asking me to do fight. He is giving me the teaching of the self, of the supreme consciousness, who can be gained only from the path of renunciation, but he is asking me to do action. But along with asking Arjun to do action, along with advising Arjun to do action, along with the instruction of doing action, Bhagwan is also doing one thing very beautifully. Embedded in his advice is, Bhagwan is also telling Arjun how to do your action. But at the end of it, the instruction for Arjun is Kuru Karmani. you must do your action. The only thing which happens today is, when people go to seek advice from their leaders, leaders may tell them what to achieve. But if the leader tell them only what to achieve and does not talk about the how, then that advice or that help is incomplete. Bhagwan is telling us the way of advice also here. Bhagwan is not blankly telling Arjun that go and do this. Bhagwan is also telling Arjun how to do it also. That how is also very important if you really want to set out correctly into doing the action correctly in the correct format. No, Arjun must be feeling that Bhagwan is, glorifying Sankhya Buddhi and instructing me to to fight. It's very strange. That's why Arjun, to draw the attention of Bhagwan, wait. You are glorifying in the path of renunciation, the path of knowledge, the path of the knowledge of about the self. With that, I'll leave Karma Yoga for a while right now. Arjun is excited with that topic. That's why Arjun's question in the 55th verse of the second chapter, 54th verse is what, Bhagwan, tell me, how does this man of realization look? It's very strange. Bhagwan is telling Arjun to actually fight, and Arjun is asking how the man of realization looks. So, Arjun, even after the question of Arjun in the 54th verse, from 55 up to 72 also, Bhagwan is elaborately describing the beauty of the Sankhya Buddhi, beauty of this self-knowledge, or the man who has gained that self-knowledge. And Bhagwan has culminated that teaching of self-knowledge where Esha Brahmi Sthiti, in the verse number 72 of second chapter, Bhagwan says this is the state at which a man of realization reaches. At the end, he becomes that all-pervading self. And all these things Bhagwan said, that even when Bhagwan was elaborating about the Yoga Buddhi also, oh, Bhagwan at that time also in between is telling Arjun, Karmani eva adhikara, ma phaleshu. Bhagwan is, not leaving that topic at all. Huh? See, that's the beauty of Bhagwan as a teacher. Bhagwan is even though he's giving the entire gamut of knowledge to Arjun right now, but in between, Bhagwan is telling Arjun, even though I'm giving you the knowledge, but you should do this. Even though I'm giving you this, you should do this way. Even though I'm giving you this knowledge at the end, you should do this way. But remember, when Bhagwan is saying that, has Bhagwan not thought that, oh, Arjun also has to reach that top? Yes, Bhagwan has. That is why Bhagwan is telling Arjun the way. If you do, Arjun, the way I am telling you to do, trust me, you will automatically reach here and you will walk that path one day very soon. That is how we need to understand Bhagwan's teaching here. So Bhagwan is, even though Bhagwan is elaborating upon the nature of self and everything, at that time also Bhagwan is telling Arjun, Karmani eva adhikara. Your right is only on the action. Now, at that time, which is how, Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji also mentioned here, Tad etad alakshya paryakuli bhuta buddhi Arjuna uvacha. Arjun must have got, very disturbing thought inside him. It must have really shaken up his entire knowledge within him. So Bhagwan and says that within Arjun got very disturbed in terms of what is Bhagwan is teaching. So he got completely mixed up in whatever Bhagwan is saying and got confused. Paryakuli bhuta. So Bhagwan Bhashakar has written Tadetad alakshya paryakuli bhuta buddhi. And this is very clear from the teaching of Bhagwan that at the eternal stop, or the eternal goal, or the final goal of every being is nothing but Sankhya Buddhi only, and reaching the self, reaching the supreme consciousness. And this Brahmi Sthiti, which Bhagwan mentioned in the 72nd verse, the direct cause of reaching that state is, and what Bhagwan considers as the direct cause is Sankhya Buddhi. Sankhya Buddhi is the direct cause, according to Bhagwan, in making one reach the Brahmi Sthiti, the state of Brahman, the state of supreme consciousness. the way Bhagwan has expounded. And Bhagwan again and again in between is praising this knowledge about the self or Sankhya Buddhi, but Bhagwan is guiding, Arjun must be thinking, Bhagwan is guiding me or instructing me to do Karma Yoga. He is asking me to follow Yoga Buddhi or Karma Yoga, the knowledge of Karma Yoga. And Arjun, it must have come in Arjun's mind the way Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji is explained. I'll pick up that portion of Bhashya and then I'll explain you what it means. Katham bhaktaya shreyo arthine yat sakshat shreya sadhanam sankhya buddhim nishtham shravayitva mam karmani drishta anekan artha yukte paramparyena api anaikantika shreya prapti phale nyunjad iti yuktah paryakuli bhava arjunasya. But Bhagwan is even though Bhagwan thinks, and according to Bhagwan, Sankhya Buddhi is or the knowledge of the self is the direct cause of making one realize that state which Bhagwan explained in the verse number 72 as Esha Brahmi Sthiti. Bhagwan feels that that is the way for every being to reach the final goal of every being. But Bhagwan is asking me to do what? Asking me to follow Yoga Buddhi. And Bhagwan himself feels that the final goal attained through Yoga Buddhi or Karma Yoga is definitely not moksha. Brahmi Sthiti is not the state which one will reach with Yoga Buddhi. But the only thing but Bhagwan says is what Yoga Buddhi will entitle you with, what is the quality which Yoga Buddhi is going to give you. Yoga Buddhi will slowly, gradually develop a thing called dispassion in you, Vairagya. And that is what Bhagwan has mentioned in the 52nd verse also. Yadate moha kalilam buddhir vyatitarishyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha. And Vairagya or dispassion is the final goal attained as part of Karma Yoga Buddhi or the knowledge of Karma Yoga. It's not moksha. From that Vairagya, that quality of Vairagya which one gains, that person becomes qualified to gain Sankhya Yoga or Sankhya Buddhi. Arjun must be thinking, Bhagavan, wait, Bhagavan. If you recall, when I surrendered to you, at that time I told you I am Shreya Kankshi. I desire only Shreyas in my life. I don't want prayers in my life. And what Arjun used the word, but in the verse number 7 of the second chapter, when Arjun surrendered, Arjun used the word very carefully there. Yash Shreyasyat Nishchitam Bruhi Tanme. Bhagwan, whatever is supremely good for me, not what is dear to me, not prayers. I've already spoken elaborately about Shreyas and prayers there, so I'm not picking up there the detail here. Arjun said, Bhagwan, I thought I told to you very clearly there, Yat Shreya Syat, whatever is supremely good for me as a being, as a jiva, Nishchitam, in a definite form tell me that, Bruhitan me, tell me that for me to follow. But Bhagwan, here that Shreyas you are saying that Sankhya Buddhi is the Shreyas, this thing, and you are asking me to follow Yoga Buddhi, Karma Yoga. Why are you making me to do that? I don't want anything less than Shreyas. I am a Shreyarthi. I am one who is desirous of Shreyas only. I want only Shreyas as my thing to be achieved in life. And that thing which is the direct cause of Shreyas, as you only explained in the second chapter that can come only by having a firm faith and a complete following of the path of Sankhya, with following the path of knowledge of the self. And you only explained and that oh, as supreme consciousness himself, you only explained me that one should devote himself completely to the path of renunciation or the path of self knowledge is to reach the final goal of all beings. But for me, you are asking me to do action, you are instructing me to do action, you are ordering me to do action, and that too not a normal action, Bhagwan. You are telling me to do ghor action. Ghor means you are asking me to fight. Fight means what? Fighting, I have to kill people. That is a very gross action. You are not only asking me to do action, you are asking me to do very severe kind of an action, serious kind of an action. And in that action there are many kind of complexities which are there are many kind of difficulties which are there are many kind of unfavorable things which are there are many kinds of confusions which are there. And you know, Arjun's word, actually Bhagwan Bhashyakar is giving word, in terms of explaining here. That is what I just read, no? Katam bhaktaya shreyavarthine yat sakshat shreyas sadhanam sankhya buddhi nishtam shravayitva mam karmani drishtanekanartha yukte. And all those things is there. Bhagwan Bhashyakar is giving words to what Arjun wants to tell Bhagwan. And Arjun says, Bhagwan, you are putting me into an action which is disastrous, anarthakari. You are putting me into an action which is disastrous in nature. And the direct cause of Shreyas, of reaching the final goal, is something else. And you are putting me into an action, that to a very disastrous kind of an action. You are putting me into an action which is not a direct cause of realization, which is only a stepping stone to become qualified to reach that path and then gain realization. It is what you call that. It is a paramparya sadhan. It is not a direct cause; it's an indirect cause. Paramparya means by tradition. It's a different tradition altogether. But traditionally, it will only prepare me to reach there, and it will only prepare me to acquire the required qualities. And then walk the path of Sankhya, which you are giving me now. I'll have to walk later on, and the fruit which are going to come from this action are also doubtful, because I am going to end up killing people. I may have to destroy many people to come there. So what kind of fruits of action it's going to come to me? Paramparyena api anaikantika shreya prapti phale katham nivanjat iti yuktah paryakuli bhavah arjunasya. And that is why Arjun becoming disturbed or getting confused is natural. But Bhagwan Bhashyakar are is very with great compassion. Bhagwan Bhashyakar is trying to explain that whatever Arjun is qualified as a student, for whatever kind of knowledge Arjun is qualified as a student now, Bhagwan and is giving the teaching of that only to Arjun first. Guru, you need to remember, the biggest point about a guru is a guru may have many disciples. The common teaching may be common for everyone, but when the one-on-one conversation happens between a guru and a disciple, well, advice is different according to every student. The way a student is prepared, the way a student is whatever a student is qualified for, guru will guide that to the student only. I'm giving you one small example. I have seen my own Guruji, Puja Swami Subodhananji, he, guiding for a same kind of a situation, two different kind of advisors to two different kind of people. So I went up to my Guruji and asked, Guruji, the problem sounded the same of both of them, but why different teaching for or each one of them? So Guruji very compassionately told me, Anish, the thing is, they both are ready for two different and kind of actions. They both are ready for two different things. That's why there are two different teachings for them. So when the scriptures are taught, scriptures will be whatever is there in the scripture will be taught. But remember how one grasp will be according to their own preparedness. One of the best example of that is, once Brahmaji was teaching in Daitya Guru and Indra together. So it is said, when the teaching was going on uh, they had told that I've taught a portion of it, now go and reflect. Both of them understood it complete, the same teaching, both of them understood completely different from what has been taught. because how we understand is according to our qualification. That is what is clearly brought out by our scriptures, that as we are qualified, that is the path we have to follow. And here Bhagwan Bhashyakar also compassionately explains that whatever Arjun was qualified for, Bhagwan is giving the teaching according to Arjun's qualification. And the reality is that Bhagwan only wants good for his devotees. Bhagwan only wants good results for its devotees. Bhagwan only wants that a devotee should be blessed, should always gain. Bhagwan only wants gain of the devotee. Even if the devotee is on the path of action, or even if the devotee is on the path of renunciation, Bhagwan has given both kind of teachings to everyone. One of the things I definitely want to bring out is in Ramcharitmanas, it is said that Ram tum Shruti Palak. Bhagwan is the sole custodian or sole trustee of the entire knowledge of Sanatan Dharma. That is why it is said in our scriptures, Yasya Nishwasitam Veda. Vedas, or the entire knowledge tradition, and the Sanatan Dharma knowledge tradition, is nothing but the breathe in and breathe out of Bhagwan. And we are not the karta of our breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out comes naturally with us and goes with us. That is why Bhagwan is the sole trustee, or the sole protector of Sanatan Dharma. And since Sanatan Dharma is protected by Bhagwan himself, we don't need to worry. Sanatan Dharma can never be destroyed completely. It is not possible at all. So that is one of the things I wanted to bring out here. So what Bhagwan does, those people, those seekers, those disciples, those devotees who are qualified for pravritti marg, or the path of action, Bhagwan will make sure that they reach the right guru for or getting that teaching. And those who are qualified for the nivritti marg, the path of renunciation and path of self knowledge, Bhagwan will make sure that such a guru reaches them, and they will start gaining and building upon that particular knowledge. Bhagwan and not Bhagwan and has got no interest in doing anything wrong for Arjun. Bhagwan has no interest in actually deluding Arjun. Bhagwan has no interest in actually confusing Arjun. But the point is, the only thing what I want to bring out here categorically from this statement is, before I move on to the verse, so to say, is that Bhagwan, once we get devoted, remember one thing, Bhagwan will never let anything wrong happen to us. But if you look at, even though Bhagwan does not want anything bad for Arjun at all, anything wrong for Arjun at all, but Arjun getting disturbed, getting anxious, actually, that is also right. Why? Because Arjun is a Shreyarthi also. So Arjun from his level is asking, when Bhagwan, this is the path I can clearly see and I understand what you are saying, why are you not asking me to follow that path rather than asking me to follow this particular path? That is why you will see what Arjun asks as a question in the verse number 1 and 2 are exactly according to Arjun's own preparedness. So that's one thing we need to remember. Before I move on to the verse number 1 and 2, I will read out what Pujya Gurudev says is in his introduction for this particular chapter. Pujya Gurudev says, so far, Shri Krishna vehemently argued against Arjuna's decision not to fight, but to renounce the glory of success and retire to the quietude of the jungle to live there the life of a monk seeking the divine. In his arguments, at one moment, the Lord advised that Arjuna's duty was to work without getting himself preoccupied with its results. Krishna had also warned him, let not thy attachment be towards inaction. Later on, the chapter concluded from verses 2, chapter 255 up to 72, with the inspired advocacy of the path of knowledge. Naturally, like any sincere student, Arjuna felt confused as to which of the paths he was to follow for his self-development. The Vedantic philosophy of India is taught to the student during an intimate and free discussion between the teacher and the taught. In no other religion in the world do we find so much freedom allowed to the disciple to ask freely and openly, to contradict and to argue with his teachers. Vedanta, being a complete and exhaustive science of religion, the great rishis never bypassed the intellect of their disciples by appealing to their blind faith or insisting upon their abject devotion. The masters of old encouraged doubts and invited discussions. It is during these discussions that the student wrestled with the teacher in the arena of the intellect, and in this exercise, he became spiritually stronger and perfectly agile in all the other layers of his personality. This Upanishadic style has been beautifully preserved and artistically employed by the great poet philosopher Vyasa in his Gita. Any student sincerely following up the second chapter with an irresistible appetite to live and enjoy the perfections pointed out must necessarily entertain such a doubt as Arjuna expresses at the opening of this chapter. In fact, the arguments raised by Krishna in his discourse create in us a grave doubt as to what exactly is that path which will take a seeker easily to the realization of the absolute in him. Is it knowledge, action, both together, practiced in a synthesis, or lastly, is it through a total renunciation of both? Such a doubt can come, as I have already said, only to a seeker who has the enthusiasm to live the life indicated earlier. According to Shankara, action and renunciation are advised in the Vedas for a seeker to pursue serially. Ordinarily, no doubt, no living creature endowed with a mind and intellect can remain even for a moment of his wakeful conscious existence without doing some work or the other. Cessation of all activities is the signature of death upon insentient matter. Therefore, act we must from birth to death. Instinctively, in our inborn ignorance, we act motivated by our ego and egocentric desires. An uncultivated man acts thoughtlessly, propelled by his own wrong tendencies, ordering for himself ever a new lease of sorrowful existence. Entertaining these sensuous desires, he acts in the world seeking joy and earning for himself fleeting happiness, endless sorrows, and inexhaustible mental impressions, vasanas. These vasanas invite new fields for exhaustion through their free expressions in action. Naturally, the way out from this non-stop vicious circle of ego-motivated action, which creates vasanas and they demand more fields to exhaust themselves, wherein the individual again fattens his ego and comes to entertain fresh sets of desires, is the path of right action. God dedicated selfless actions performed in a spirit of devotion and self surrender exhaust the existing vasanas and do not create of their own accord any more fresh tragic impressions, which in their turn would order fresh fields of activities. In the limited concept of life in the Vedic period, work or karma meant only the ritualistic sacrifices. These activities, pursued for a significantly long period, purified the heart, meaning integrated the personality and brought about a single pointedness of mind in the individual. It is obvious that such a conditioned and steadied mind alone could successfully apply itself on the path of self inquiry and come to rediscover the self, the divine soul. The Gita was written as an answer to an urgent demand in the time of Vyasa. The old traditional thoughts became stereotyped and lifeless. Dead phrases and cliches cannot nourish a culture. Thus, through the Gita, Krishna is made to give out a reinterpretation of the Vedic truths in the context of his time and in the language of the world in which he himself happened to live. Arjuna, a warrior in the battlefield, is facing an army which is championing a cause at once immoral and foul. At this moment, for his spiritual evolution, which no doubt has been fully accepted as the goal of existence, it is not possible for him to indulge in ritualism unless he deserts his post of duty. If ritualism alone was the path, all people at all times would never be able to employ themselves for the highest goal of life. In the Gita, therefore, we have an expansion of the idea indicated in the Vedas. Krishna, in his divine declaration, gives the sanction that any action can be a glorious sacrifice if only it is undertaken with the required purity of motive, with a spirit of surrender, and with the deep emotion of love. Apart from the glory of the Gita as a book of original contribution inaugurating a development upon the Vedic technique, this chapter with its opening query from Arjuna vividly pictures his psychological confusion. We have noticed the psychosis into which Arjuna had sunk. Defining a patient of psychosis, modern psychology says the psychotic person loses his contact with reality. He may live in a dream world, perhaps unaware of his identity or surroundings, or he may be unable to control his behavior. He may have fantastic ideas, delusions. He may interpret what he sees or hears, illusions. He may see, hear, feel, taste, or smell things that are not there, hallucinations. Even though the patient Arjuna, a victim of his own delusions, illusions, and hallucinations, had completely surrendered to the divine wisdom of his friend, Lord Krishna, the words of his charioteer were not fully appreciated by him all at once. His mind was so much overwhelmed by sorrow that he could not decide upon the right line of action. He had at first resolved not to fight the mean fratricidal war and had vigorously marshaled a set of seemingly impressive arguments in support of his decision. Therefore, Arjuna is still and naturally too partial to his own decision. All through the second chapter, Arjuna's intellect was trying to follow closely the arguments of Krishna, mainly to find fault with them if he could, or at least to seek in them some support for his own decisions. Krishna's arguments seemed to the preoccupied intellect of his friend equivocal and vague. To Arjuna, in his consummate prejudice against everything that came as a challenge to his own decisions, Krishna's discourses was not clear. At one place, the Lord indicated that karma was inferior to buddhi, but in the same discourse, in its conclusion, there was a vehement support of the path of renunciation. Arjuna was all the time seeking a confirmation that his cowardice was a noble emotion to be applauded and appreciated, commended and supported by his friend and philosopher Krishna. But unfortunately, he could not discover in the Lord's words any direct declaration supporting his own viewpoint. But there was some indirect circumstantial evidence indicating that Arjuna's decision to desert his post of duty was noble and glorious. Did not the Lord elaborate upon the glory of the man of steady wisdom? Arjuna means to say, this is exactly what I wanted. But at the same time, in the same discourse, Arjuna had been pushed to the front, commissioning him to face the enemies, to take up arms and fight the bloody war. Under these circumstances, it is but natural that Arjuna should confront his charioteer with this direct question as to why he confuses him with self-contradictory advice. With this was what Puja Gurudev had to write for as a commentary for introduction of chapter 3. With this, we'll get into the verse number 1 and 2 of this particular chapter. But I want to say one more thing to you there. Arjuna is a very, very careful listener. That's definitely there. And Arjuna is not a coward also. He has fought many wars. War was not a problem for him. But yes, Arjun wants a Shreyas for him. He doesn't want to, dirty his hand or, make his hand red-handed for, with the blood of his relatives. It seems Arjun does not want to soak his hands with the blood of his relatives. He does not want to be seen by the future generations as a killer of his own relatives. And those relatives, some of them who had loved him a lot. This seems to be one of the primary things behind Arjun's mind. That is why at this juncture, it seems that Arjun finds the path given by Bhagwan, which is the Sankhya path, where he doesn't have to kill his relatives, doesn't have to be take the blame of that at all, or more exciting to Arjun than actually the act of fighting. Even though he knew that because of the fight between dharma and adharma, Kauravas have always done wrong to Pandavas, and this is not a war which came overnight. It has already been planned for a long period of time. But at this part of the moment, it seems to Arjun that it is better to go and take the path of renunciation than actually getting into a such a severe action of taking the blame of killing our own relatives. Now, with that, we will move into the first verse of chapter 3. I'll read the verse number 1 and verse number 2 together. Both are Arjun's question to Bhagwan, which really becomes the starting point for this particular chapter of Karma Yoga. So I'll read both the verses together and we will see the literal meaning today. Rest we'll see detailed in the next session. अथ तृतीयोऽध्यायः अर्जुन उवाच जायसी चेत् कर्मणस्ते मता बुद्धिर्जनार्दन तत्किं कर्मणि घोरे मां नियोजयसि केशव जायसी चेत् कर्मणस्ते मता बुद्धिर्जनार्दन तत्किं कर्मणि घोरे मां नियोजयसि केशव. Now the verse number 2. व्यामिश्रेणेव वाक्येन बुद्धिं मोहयसीव मे तदेकं वद निश्चित्य येन श्रेयोऽहमाप्नुयाम्. व्यामिश्रेणेव वाक्येन बुद्धिं मोहयसीव मे तदेकं वद निश्चित्य येन श्रेयोऽहमाप्नुयाम्. You will see in the verse number 1, there are two ways Arjun actually addresses Bhagwan. So I told you in the last chapter also and in the first chapter also, in Bhagavad Gita, all the addresses which are used in verses or the mantras given by Bhagwan, they have some meaning behind them. So we must see here that Arjun uses two addresses for Bhagwan here. One is in the first half of the verse number 1, and one is in the second half of the verse number 1. So first he says, Hey Janardhana. And the next address he uses for Bhagwan is Hey Keshava. Now, why is he using two different kind of addresses for Bhagwan here, and why he is actually, what kind of attributes of Bhagwan he is wanting to bring out, so that it actually gives a piece of thing to Bhagwan, or gives a piece of request to Bhagwan that Bhagwan, I really need your help. So the first address which Arjun uses for Bhagwan is Hey Janardhana. Janan Ardayati iti Janardana, the one who protects the entire mankind. Janan means the people. One who protects his own people, one who protects the mankind is Janardana. That's one. The other one is Hey Keshava. One who killed the demon called Keshi. That's why Bhagwan got the name called Keshava. So both ways, it's the address is used for one thing, Bhagwan as a protector of this whole mankind, especially those who have surrendered unto you. Please help me. I also need your help. I want you to really help me understand this correctly so that I can set out into the action correctly. And hey Keshava, Bhagwan, you are the one who are killer of demons. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. You are the one who actually eradicates the wrong people in this world. And he's probably giving the indication that Bhagwan, in the same way, eradicate all the negative tendencies in me so that I can understand this thing correctly and set out into the action. But please don't let me be one of the people to eradicate my own relatives because they're on the other side. So maybe that's the reason why Arjuna is addressing Bhagwan like that. So as Janardana, Bhagwan, you are the one who takes away the sorrow of this entire mankind, especially those who come to you, surrender to you as devotees. So Bhagwan, please take my sorrow also. And here you will see in these two verses, it actually comes out very clearly. It brings out very clearly Arjun's anxiety here, and also deep down there, Arjun's request seeking for help. Bhagwan, I am in deep problem. Please help me. That Arth Bhav is also clearly coming here. in the first half of the verse, what Arjun says here, karmanaha buddhi jayasi chet te mata. Bhagwan, in case in your own thought, the way you have represented in the chapter 2, with the way you have given the teachings in the chapter 2, the way your or entire teaching as part of your thought flow has come out in the chapter 2, it seems very clearly that according to you, in your own intellect, according to your own conviction, te mata, uh, buddhi hi jayasi, karmana buddhi jayasi. As with respect to karma, with respect to action, the buddhi means there's sankhya buddhi here. Buddhi means the path of renunciation, nivritti path here. Nivritti path, actually the path of renunciation is a complete dedication to the path of self knowledge. It's a complete total dedication to path of self knowledge, giving up everything else outside of that. So here Arjun says, Bhagwan, according to you, as per your own conviction, and also what I can and take out from whatever teachings you have given in the chapter 2 in the last few minutes, according to you also, the Sankhya Buddhi or the path of renunciation is far better, is the ultimate path as compared to the path of action. And if this is your own thought process, and you yourself consider the path of knowledge or the path of renunciation as far higher than the path of action, then Bhagwan, why are you asking me or appointing me to into the path of action? Why, Bhagwan? Why are you not or straight away instructing me? Because I'm already at your mercy. I've already surrendered unto you. Why are you not directly instructing me to go and practice the path of renunciation or the path of Sankhya Buddhi, the path of self knowledge? Why you are putting me into such a severe kind of an action, and action that too more severe than it can be considered as any other war also? Of course war means killing people, but here it's not only killing people, it is so severe that I will have to dirty my hands and with the blood of my own relatives, and all of them are my relatives. And I understand there are people helping them. Killing them is not an issue because that's part of the war. But there is a whole chunk of my relatives on the other side, and I will have to end up killing them to win this war. Why are you even appointing me or instructing me to go to that particular such a severe kind of an action? You know, many a times a man knows that that this is the kind of thing I am capable of. Many times man and knows that I am capable of this thing, while others may or may not understand that, and he wants to look forward to people where he is seeking advice, that why are they not telling me things to do according to my own caliber, according to my own qualities. So many a times it is seen that man knows his own rights, and there are times when it is also seen that one may not even know their right. It and sometimes it is when it is seen that people don't know their rights, it can be seen in this way also in the creation, that others know who somebody is right, and they come and tell you that why are you not doing this? It's your own right, go and claim it. There are times when people know their own right. There are at sometimes people don't know their right. There are times when others know somebody's right also, that according to his situation in life, which is the kind of thing which he is qualified for, and which is the time and kind of thing which doesn't come into his arena of work at all. So this is how we can see how the world functions here. uh, According to one situation, and according to the long term achievement set out for this person also, people can also advise in terms of what are the right goal for you, and sometimes we also come to know. And in the next what do you call that next verse, which is the verse number 2, Arjun is asking, is actually pointing finger to Bhagwan, or asking Bhagwan one thing. Then vyamishrene va vakyena buddhim mohaya sivme. Bhagwan, you seem to appreciate karma yoga also. You seem to proudly bring out Sankhya Yoga also. And then while you are telling me to do Karma Yoga, you are telling that, the Sankhya Yoga is the ultimate path. So Bhagwan, I told you, I in the 7th verse of 2nd chapter itself, Dharma Sammuda Cheta. In the topic of Dharma, my mind is deluded. My intellect is already deluded in the subject of Dharma. And here you are also giving me mixed kind of statement. Vyamishrenava means mixed kind of statement. Mixed means, Bhagwan, you're telling me both the paths, you're appreciating both the paths, you're praising both the paths, and then you're also telling one of the path is higher, and then you are telling me, but you take the second path, and you praised both the path. By these kind of mixed kind of advice which you have given, mixed kind of teachings you have given, my intellect is deluded. My intellect is actually confused right now. It was already deluded before, but now my intellect is confused about this particular topic. You in the previous chapter first praised, Sankhya. You started with the teaching of Sankhya Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, or the path of renunciation, or the knowledge about the self. And then you already displayed the kind of what you call that, pinnacle of achievements with the kind of Sankhya Yoga also, with the kind of Buddhi Yoga also, with the kind of the knowledge about the self, that this is the ultimate path, and this is the way you can achieve all these things. And uh, uh, and if there are no two doubts about this, because in the 38th verse you said that, in the 38th verse you said that at Sankhya Buddhi is the ultimate, is the topmost thing there, and that's what you need to follow. And you praised Karma Yoga, Yoga Buddhi also. And you never ever had said anything wrong about Karma Yoga also. You never said anything in derogatory about the Karma Yoga, or putting down Karma Yoga also. So Bhagwan, with these kind, you did not or put down Karma Yoga also. In such a kind of mixed kind of teachings of yours, it's in such a kind of mixed advice of yours, I am really little bit worried, Bhagwan, that I'm little bit confused as to what is the correct path for me. And my confusion, and because of this mixed teaching of yours, has actually increased. And it seems to me that your words are actually, you know deluding me more. They are confusing me more. Mohayasi iva, they are sounding in delusionary to me. They are sounding confusing to me in now. That is why, you'll see here, Arjun used the word eva here, as if they are confusing me. He did not directly tell Bhagwan, or blame Bhagwan that your words are confusing me. He said they are sounding as if they are creating confusion in my mind. Why? Because he did not give direct blame to Bhagwan, because he is a disciple. Remember, he knows his limit in terms of a disciple. He never crosses the line of respect towards his teacher. He says, Bhagwan, I am a warrior, I am a fighter, I am a kshatriya. You should give me direct orders what needs to be done. You don't give me all the things together and ask me to choose. You give me direct advice as to what to be done. That's why he uses the word ekam vada nischitya. Bhagwan, that's why decide amongst both of those teachings you have given, what is good for me among them. Choose one of them and give it to me. I'm a person who's single pointed man. You tell me what is correct, I will do whatever you want me to do. Whatever you want me to do, whatever, from whichever path you feel that I'll attain the highest of the achievement, you please advise me that path, from which I am going to gain Shreyas, the ultimate good. Please advise me that path. And this is what Arjun's emotion at this point in time is. And this is what the actual starting point of the third chapter is also. So you'll see the whole third chapter has started because of Arjun's question. Question become the glacier from where the river of the Karma Yoga teaching flows. So that is the starting point of this particular chapter. This much for today. Rest detail we'll see in the next session. कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि श्रीमन्नारायणायेति समर्पयामि। ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। ओम तत्सत। Before I end the session, those listeners who are not connected to us on WhatsApp, I wanted to just share with them that we have created a channel on YouTube by the name Vedanta hyphen the science of life. You can search with this name itself, where all the episodes of Bhagavad Gita are uploaded on the Spotify are available for listening on both YouTube and YouTube Music also. This channel is created with a specific purpose that in terms of our future expansion plan of adding more texts and more talks and more satsang, it will not come on Spotify, it will come on this YouTube channel only because of the limitation with Spotify. While Bhagavad Gita will continue to be there on the Spotify, and all the chapters, I would my prayer to Bhagwan is that we are able to cover all the chapters of Bhagavad Gita. They will definitely be available on Spotify. But all the other texts which we start, while Bhagavad Gita will also be available on YouTube channel and YouTube Music also, with Vedanta hyphen the science of life is the name of the channel. Well, it will be available there. All the other texts which I take up, maybe Upanishad, Prakarana Grantha, Ramcharitmanas, or Brahma Sutra, or whatever we take up, those will come exclusively on YouTube and YouTube Music. So I just wanted to inform you before I end the session. Hari Om.